My name is Rob Meyer-Kukian from 7 Notes Natural Health, and we're going to be talking about sprouts today. I'm coming to you from my kitchen so that I can show you a couple of things that I use with sprouts and growing sprouts and whatnot. And so it's kind of like being on a little field trip, although it is kind of awkward getting the perfect angle. There we go, that's a little better, in our kitchen. So let's talk a little bit first about what are sprouts. So sprouts are the teeniest, tiniest little plant that starts. It's the youngest green that comes off of a seed after it has germinated, and it's typically only a few days old, and the sprout has a little bit of a stem and a tiny little bit of leaves on it. They're generally only just a couple of inches long. They're not very big, but they end up kind of, the way we grow them, kind of clumping and grouping together. So some important things to think about is the difference between sprouts and microgreens. So sprouts are grown in water and air. Actually, I'm going to amend that and say sprouts are grown in air and microgreens are grown in dirt. So when you see the little trays of dirt or little pots of dirt with little greens growing and people are kind of snipping them on their kitchen counter, those are microgreens versus sprouts that are grown with no soil. Excellent things to grow in your sprouts or in your sprouting containers are broccoli, radishes, and any kind of beans. And I had a book laying around here. There it is. Excellent. Sorry to run away from you for a second there. So some beans that are often sprouted are mung beans, lima beans, kidney beans, and sometimes you've got teeny tiny little small seeds that you're sprouting, and sometimes you've got larger seeds that are sprouting. And so it's really interesting to watch the difference in the types of seeds and watch them grow, which is a lot of fun. It's very simple. It's very easy to do. It requires your attention just twice a day. And what you're going to need is a wide mouth canning jar, a ball canning jar or whatever brand you use. But you're going to want a wide mouth jar because the sprouts are going to sort of fill up this jar. And with a narrow mouth, you're going to kind of end up pulling and tearing, and they just kind of fall out of these wider mouth jars. And then I purchased a special lid. This looks like a regular lid, but it comes with this screen. These are available in plastic. You can do it with like a cheesecloth even, just putting cloth over the jar. Although I don't recommend the cloth because it will kind of hold on to the water a little bit longer. But it can be done that way. It can be done just with screen from your hardware store. I've seen a lot of people make a lot of their own sort of things. But I really like this because it's stainless steel. It can be washed and sanitized. Plastic lids, the thing that's neat about the plastic lids is you can oftentimes get different size holes. So you'll see that the mesh on this is actually, where's my camera? There it is. It's actually fairly fine. This is really great for when you're sprouting smaller seeds. So we just sprouted some broccoli seeds, and they're pretty teeny tiny little seeds. So so look at and consider what size holes there are in the cap or the lid that you're putting on your jar. When I bought this, I bought it off Amazon. It just sort of seems like it's the way that we're going these days with COVID and physical distancing. And in the kit came 3 of these little filters, 3 lids, and then it came with 2 or 3 of these little racks. And these are actually pretty helpful. They're not required, but it came with it, and so it was pretty cool. So what you'll see is this sits on the counter, and then what that does, let's see if I can angle this just right, is you can put your jar in it to allow it to drain. And that's key. That's important for sprouting in a safe and healthy way. So once you have your tools, your equipment, you've ordered your seeds, you can order them. Again, a lot of places have them online. I ordered mine from a company called Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. It's just a regular seed packet, but they have packages and packets of sprouting seeds that are in bigger containers, so that you don't have to keep ordering and buying, just these little seed packets. I'm a novice sprouter, so when I was ordering seeds for our garden, I just ordered these from the company that I was getting my seeds for the garden from. This is a company that I trust. They're all organic, they're heirloom seeds, and so I figured this was a good way to get started. So sprouting is approximately a 5-day process. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take 2 tablespoons of seeds, and I'm sorry, I thought I had another packet of seeds to demonstrate, so I'm sorry for that. Before you go to bed on what we're calling day 0, 2 tablespoons of seeds into your jar, fill it with water about halfway. What this is going to allow you to do is this is going to allow you to rinse the seeds. So fill it with water halfway, dump it out, fill it with water, let it sit overnight, 6 to 8 hours. In the morning, we're going to call this next day, day 1. You're going to dump all the water out, fill it with water again, swish it around, and drain it. You're going to put it in your little thing, or you're going to kind of prop it up against something. A lot of people use a bowl. But you don't want the water to collect and sit. You want all of the water to come out. And then you're going to take your sprouts, your jar of soon-to-be sprouts, and you're going to put it in a dark place, in a closet, in a cabinet, in a cupboard. You do not want to put these in the sun. And you're going to rinse them approximately 12 hours apart. So I rinse mine in the morning around 8 and again at night around 8. If you do it at 9 and 9 or 10 and 10, that's fine. But you approximately, the guide they say is rinse them about every 12 hours. Again, drain them, put them in a dark place. Next day, all the way through your 3rd day, you're just going to rinse in the morning, rinse at night. In the 4th day, I should say about the 2nd day, you're going to really start seeing things coming to life. At about the 4th day, you want to give it some sunlight. And what that does simply is, because of photosynthesis, allows the greens to start greening up. Because until this time, they're kind of yellowish and whitish. What this does is this gives a little bit of that green color to it. It's allowing all the chlorophyll to get going and whatnot, and that's one of the amazing benefits of it. Let me make sure who I'm answering here. Deborah, there is no medium that you need. It's simply water and air. And actually, you just want enough water to keep rinsing them and watering them every day. But then you want to get rid of all of that water, because That's when, we hear about like several years ago, particularly, there was a lot of issues and concerns with E. coli in sprouts. And that's when you're going to get that icky bacteria growing, is if you've got a ton of water, if you've got them sitting in water, saturated in water. So yeah, so there's no medium. That's why I say it's super simple. It's a jar, a special draining lid, the seeds in water. And then on day 5 is the day you're going to harvest. You'd rinse them again, and then you're going to put them into a container. Here's what I like to do. I like to take a piece of paper towel and put it into the container that I'm putting it in, just to absorb any extra water. And then the next day when I'm using it, I will change that out just to keep it dry in there so that it doesn't get icky. You want to use your sprouts within 5 days of harvesting them. That's sort of the rule that I've read. Okay, so Debbie, you bring up a really good point. A lot of folks who have autoimmune disorders are encouraged to avoid sprouts. And part of that is because there is a risk of this bacteria thing, and you don't want to end up with food poisoning, right? Nobody wants food poisoning. But particularly if you have an autoimmune disorder, particularly if it's a GI related thing, that can be really disruptive to the system. However, if you follow some basic rules, you should be okay. Couple of things. Number 1, always, always, always wash your hands and have clean hands when handling the sprouts. I washed my hands before even just rinsing them, just so that if I did touch the lid or anything, that nothing was even remotely possible of getting in the way. Always rinse your sprouts when you are, after you've harvested them, before you eat them. Another way to ensure that it's safe to eat the sprouts is to lightly cook them. So we'll get into that when we talk about using the sprouts and eating them. What's the other tip? I think that might be the only other tip. Oh, the other tip is make sure you're not letting your sprouts sit in a bunch of water. Make sure you drain them fully. And that should protect you, help you out in regards to this E. coli and other bacteria that people oftentimes have concerns with when it comes to sprouts and sprouting. There's another method of growing sprouts on trays that have holes in them that the water kind of goes through. Some folks who've had concerns over E. coli in their jars say that they like to use the trays. So far, in the batch of sprouts that we've made, we've really liked this method, and it's worked really, really well for us. So why sprouts? Well, nutrients is the very first thing. Because of where they are in the growing process. They are rich in nutrients. They're full of nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, enzymes, all of this. It's fantastic. Some sources say that they are extremely good at helping to balance your cholesterol, which of course means then it's good for heart health, which is excellent. They're also very alkalizing, which means that it helps to balance the pH in your body. In our modern society, in the foods that we eat, in the things that we interact with every day, it's very easy for our bodies to become acidic. And an acidic environment is a place where dis-ease and dis-ease is ripe to grow. But when your body is alkaline, or in that state of pH that we ideally want, it's harder for dis-ease and disease to become rampant in the body. So how do you use these things once you've got them grown and they're hanging out in your fridge when they're done? If you're eating them raw, you can just grab them by the handful and eat them as a snack. You can put them on sandwiches. One way that people really like to use them is to put them as kind of a garnish on top of your soup, which then addresses if you're concerned about some bacteria and whatnot. One of the recommendations is to lightly cook them. So putting them in some soup right at the end before you serve it is a nice way to kind of heat them up just enough. Or lightly sauteing them in a pan with some coconut oil would be really, really fantastic. Another way to eat them raw is to just throw a handful into your smoothie in the morning. Let's see. So I have a couple questions. I might have tuned in late, but can you show us where you house these as they're so in our house, the best place to grow them is on the shoe rack in my closet, in my clothes closet. So I put down a tray and some paper towel in case there's any extra water leaking out. But the best place to put them is a dark place, a closet or a cabinet. So if you have a walk-in pantry in your home that doesn't have a window in it, that's a really great place to put it. If you're lucky enough to have a ton of cabinet space, so like in your upper cabinets where you keep your glasses or plates or something, and you can sort of quarantine off, that's a good word for these days, isn't it? If you can sort of keep a special area off for your sprouts, it just needs to be a dark, cool place. All right? So think about it as if you're making like kombucha or water kefir or something like that. You want it to be that. Some people have even covered them with a towel and put them on their countertop. For us, we have a very efficient, that's a nice way of saying small kitchen. So we just wanted to keep them in a place that was kind of off and away. So a couple of points. And if you have any questions, keep putting them in the comments and I'll answer them while I'm still live. And then as they keep coming through after the live, I'll keep responding as well. But a couple of key points to remember. Number one, always, always, always rinse the seeds when you're sprouting them twice a day. The general rule of thumb is about 12 hours apart. Keep your hands clean when you're working with them. Everyone's washing their hands these days, so this is just another exercise where it's a good time to practice that basic hygiene. Sanitize your jars. So what I like to do is I like to hand wash them and then put them through the dishwasher because it gets to a heat that our sink water is not going to get to. The other thing is make sure you're using good, clean, purified water. So if you have a reverse osmosis water system or a real good water filter, this is not a Brita water filter water. This is something that's done through a charcoal filter or something like that. We have a Berkey water filter that we use, and that's the water we're using to rinse these seeds with. We don't want chlorine, fluoride, BPA, not BPA. What's the stuff in the water? Chlorine. Nope. PFAS. That's the other thing. All the initials. PFAS. We don't want any of that stuff in our water, in our seeds. So get some good filtered water and make sure that you're always drinking that, A, and B, using that to rinse your seeds for your sprouts. Okay, that was fast and furious. 18 minutes. So if you have any other questions, be sure to type them in. Hey, have you ever sprouted before? How many people? Put in the comments below, first time if you've never ever sprouted or this is your first time sprouting. If you're an expert sprouter, what advice do you have? Put that in the comments below too so that we can all learn from your experience. I hope this has been helpful. Again, I'm Rob Meyer-Kukan from 7 Notes Natural Health in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Get your sprouts on. Enjoy the amazing benefits, the nutrients that come from them. And I will see you next time. Have a great day.